Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back yet again.
Yeah, and this is yet again one of the ones that I love to do. And, this feels like it's way more in line with our purpose than simply showing the news. We want to show the news, but we want to show, the news ain't so new.
Right.
That's something we want to get a hold of here. Let me just put it out there. Do you guys remember the movie Groundhog's Day?
It was a great movie.
Wasn't that a great movie, Groundhog's Day? I mean, but at the same time, it's one that if you watched it and then you started to see it after a little while again, it irritated me.
Yeah.
Because, do you ever feel like you're on this endless loop that it's just going over and over and over again?
I do. I feel like, and when I work with people in past lives too, I'm learning that their whole life after life after life, they do something similar.
Yes, similar, but not exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so let's look at this quote. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. That's Einstein. Einstein and Niels Bohr and Oppenheimer, and we could go on and on with these amazing minds. Of course, we'd have to put Tesla in there as well. They gave us so much from the scientific end. And, I had somebody the other day say, no, it doesn't jive with the mystic, but it does jive with the mystic. How could you say it doesn't jive with the mystical vision of things? I think it's all very, very apparent. Linear time and the illusion of linear time, the concept of time has been created as a measure of change. It's our perception of change that provides the illusion of linear time. Now, before we get going, I do want to thank everybody that's been supporting the channel through Medicinal Foods, and there's a link on every video. Just use the coupon code EEA for an extra 5% off the order, and then as you fill up the cart, you could get up to 25% off and free shipping. And also our Patreons, and I want to thank Tori for being our newest Patreon.
Yes, thank you, Miss Tori.
And Tori, we love you, and we love what you and your other half is doing, because they're out there really doing it. They literally bought a piece of land in a spot that feels right, and they're building something on that piece of land, racing against time, because they are in an area that's going to get really cold, and they have a baby with them. So they are really doing it. They're manifesting their destiny, yes. And they know what their vision is, and that's a beautiful thing.
And they want off of the system. They want off the grid. They want to grow their own everything, and it's just beautiful. And it's really tough right now. And let's just send them some good juju so they can get through this part.
Yes. Exactly what Cindy said.
Mm-hmm.
They understand. They're going to homeschool. Yep. They're going to be self-sufficient. And they're going to do things their way. They're going to live their life their own way. Now, before we go back into that thought of time and cycles, I just wanted to show you this, because this went so in line with what we were talking about a couple videos back about the fact that there is evidence of, I would view it as technology and verification of the battles of the quote-unquote gods. And again, we need to redefine things. I think we're doing a horrible disservice if we just view everything as angels and demons. It's just not accurate. There are extraterrestrials, there's interdimensionals, there's what we would call angels, there's what we would call demons. There is a myriad life forms, and we get from the Sanatana Dharma and the books of the Sanatana Dharma, which is eternal wisdom, eternal truth, coming out of that society that we had talked about, the Harappan culture, and the people of the Indus Valley, which again, I don't think it's just the Indus Valley. I think we're talking about a line that goes back to Lemuria and Mu, and back to the better days of Atlantis as well. This world had a myriad of different beings on it, not just Homo sapiens sapiens. Homo sapiens sapiens is just one of so many different beings that have been on this planet. Yes, there's been amazing genetic experiments going on. And as we've shared with you guys, we do think that a lot of the Sumerian stories shed light to what's going on this planet with the Ijiji, Anunnaki, and the Illuminati and all these secret societies that are trying to basically stranglehold knowledge and keep things from people. But yet, our history goes back past those dark entities to a time when there was really just benevolent beings on this planet, and it was an amazing planet full of light and love and harmony and sharing.
Mm-hmm. It was, it's something where everything was in balance. Everything was in balance, and people understood if they were out of balance, they knew that there were certain consequences. So people didn't step out of the bounds as easily as they do today. Why did they do it today? Because they're unaware of how they affect the rest of the community.
So, again, a big part, and I asked Cindy again yesterday, because what I know in my heart, and the guides do want me to keep focusing on utilizing all the decades of my study of the Abrahamic tradition to show that this tradition is really the golden nuggets in it have been basically obfuscated, glossed over, and it's been used to control us in a fear-based way. So when we think about Sodom and Gomorrah, it's all about the wrath of God coming down on us. Straight out, I'll tell you, that's not the wrath of the creator of the multiverse. Mm-hmm. That's not the wrath of source. Would that change things for you that are of a Abrahamic mindset, traditional fundamentalist Abrahamic mindset? Honestly, would it change things for you if you realized that everything that you thought was the creator of the multiverse, the source of everything, it wasn't the source of everything? What if you realized it was another individual or series, a group of individuals who were basically technologically more advanced and used it to their advantage to control humanity? Would you still get down and bow down and worship? When Yeshua came, he basically confronted the Pharisees and Sadducees and said to them, "Your God's not mine.
Right.
You're serving the evil one. You're serving the evil ones, the dark ones that control the dark age." They thought that they were, well, many of them, maybe they knew that they weren't serving, the true source. They were serving dark beings. And, again, just like we see nowadays with the leadership of this world, and, we could throw out names like over in Canada that begins with a T, over in France begins with an M, JB over here, and it goes on and on and on, the list of these elites that are not serving the creator of the universe in the sense that, what are they doing? Well, they're making life better for themselves, their family, and their loved ones in a short-sighted way. And yet they are serving the greater purpose, which is soul growth, in a sense, because many of us are here to overcome. Mm-hmm. We're jumping into this scenario so we could prove ourselves. Just as a martial artist might jump into an octagon to prove himself against another martial artist. The same thing. We're proving ourselves by jumping behind enemy lines in these times. And so we see here, this article talks about the fact that, whatever it was that destroyed the city, it could have been a meteor. Maybe not. But it was something that had an airburst. It was a detonation in the air. Many people might not realize too, but with modern day NUKESs, it's not necessarily an impact, it's an airburst that causes a blast wave that causes all the destruction. And when we have layers of radioactive material around the globe in different areas, we actually have, green glass that's been made by something that's exceedingly hot. It's not something that we would think these cultures would be able to do in that time period. So what really happened? And again, we were talking about, if you look at the Kardashev scale, which is talking about just how the technology that certain advanced civilizations would have, what they would be able to do with it. It would be nothing. For an advanced civilization, we can imagine things like tractor beams now. We can imagine things like lasers and different space type of based weapons that say could go ahead and disrupt the asteroid belt and start raining things down on Earth as retribution from the gods or the mighty and powerful ones. Everything is so twisted too that it makes it almost impossible to tell who is who. And this is done purposefully because they always want you to pick one of their paradigms, jump in one of their boxes. As long as you jump in one of their boxes, they're going to be able to control you in one shape or form. That's the bottom line. So you could jump in the box, and they'll be so happy to have you jump in that box that say you view everything from a total liberal left point of view. Believe it or not, they don't mind if you jump in that right side box either, because they're going to be able to set you off to war with the left. Mm-hmm. And thus, they are not doing the dirty work themselves. They're just nudging you in the right direction.
Yes, so they're very good about making your life easy as long as you're in one of these paradigms. Now, if you step out of the box and do something like Miss Tori and her family is doing, it's not going to be so easy because she's stepping out of their reach, out of their control, and they're not going to make it easy on her. But for her, she's living her truth.
So some people have thought that this particular city may be, either Sodom or Gomorrah, Tal el Hammam. And so what they found out was the destruction was not caused by a volcano, earthquake, or warfare of that time. None of them are capable of melting metal, mud bricks, and pottery. To figure out what they could, they used an online impact calculator. Do you remember the Tunguska impact in 1908 that destroyed 80 million trees? Well, they say it was, basically, a space rock that came in and exploded. Was it? Perhaps. Perhaps that was. It doesn't necessarily mean this is the same thing. Interesting, too. They find what they call diamonds in the dirt. At the site, there are finely fractured sand grains called shocked quartz that only form at 725,000 pounds per square inch of pressure. That's huge. Imagine 6 68-ton Abrams military tanks stacked on your thumb, on something the size of your thumb. This very well could be technology. They've used technology on us many, many, many times before. These beings aren't God. They're not the creator of the multiverse. Source basically allows all things to be because Source is in every single thing you see. Mm-hmm. Every little bumblebee, every tree, every rock, every dog, every cute little puppy, every little bird, all of us. Source is everywhere. Anywhere you look, Source is there. So Source doesn't necessarily even take sides, so to speak. So, we have to kind of get ourselves out of the mindset of saying, oh, there's nothing I could do. It's just the will of God. That's what they want you thinking. Then you're not going to affect change on this timeline. Mm-hmm. That's the whole purpose of this. They want you to think things are linear, straightforward linear. There's nothing you could do where you're going from point A to point B and you can't change it. That's what they tell you, but that's not the truth.
Right. It's definitely not the truth. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the truth out there so you guys can make better decisions for yourselves based on true knowledge, not what you've been fed since you were a tiny child.
So they say the only thing that could do it is a cosmic impact or high technology. So all you got to do is look, as above, so below. We look at the shape of the galaxy, and it gives us clues to so many things. Look at the spiral, right? Look at the shape of the spiral. Well, time is like that because time is cyclical, but it's always wrapping around. And every time it comes around to the same sort of point, you run through the same sort of events, the same sort of cosmic influences, but each time it's unique. Every single time it's unique. Mm-hmm. So that is something to keep in mind. And the precession of the equinox, which takes roughly 25,920 years. And here we go through, the Earth goes through all the signs. Why do Why does astrology work? Well, because we're in a matrix of sorts. Everything is related to everything else. Everything is energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. Energy can exert influence, though. So as we move through a certain part of our precession of the equinox, we're affected by different energies. Not just, the ones of the stars themselves, but they do have a strong bearing on our consciousness and everything that manifests here in time. There are the yugas, which basically what I've gotten from the guides has been confirmation that it does. The yugas do ride by the precession of the equinox. And there's been many people, Peter Dunov, who was a healer, a musician, a psychic, and had visions of the time we're in now. And he also saw the galactic superwave that's coming at a time before anybody else spoke about it. Really, anybody modern day ever spoke about it. He spoke about it, and he said we're going to be leaving this horrible dark section of space that we have been in for this Kali Yuga, the Dark Age. We're going to be leaving that. And that's a beautiful thing, because you can see, this is the Dark Age. And this is a chart according to Sri Yugaswar, who was the teacher of Yogananda, who's the first to bring yoga to the West in mass. And so, thankfully, the Golden Age lasts much longer than the Dark Age. So you have the Satya, the Treta, and the Dwapara. So we could view it again as the Dark Age, is very small. Maybe it's only, an hour and a half, 2 hours of a 24-hour cycle, so to speak. But again, go back to the cyclic nature of things. We've done this time and time and time again. Each time we go through the same influences, but it's a little bit unique. It's a little bit unique. We talk about ascension. Well, we are. We're basically going now into the Dwapara. So we are ascending. And at some point in time, there's going to be a descending phase again, too. Now, not all individuals might be here. Some individuals might jump off. Might jump off the train at an opportune time and just hang somewhere, somewhere in an area that they could take a break. Because again, every single one of us is source, living a unique journey. Think about this again. We come through the same influences time and time again, but every time a little unique. We see the spiral as above, so below. We see the spiral of our DNA and double helix. And, again, it's been said that we use maybe 10, 15% of our brain. Well, that's directly related to all the DNA that the dark ones have turned off, because they turned it off when they had the opportunity to keep us in a lower state of mind, a lower vibrational frequency, keep us worshiping them as the creator of the multiverse, which they're not. They're not. The creator of the multiverse, really, it wants you to discover for yourself your own journey, the ultimate truth that leads back to source. The real source is love, and it's a matter of how you realize that. But the more love you can hold in your heart, the quicker you're going to get back to source. And eventually, we have 6 of these DNA double helixes awakened and be using 100% of our abilities. That's pretty exciting. As children, we play, we explore and explore again. We create. This is part of what we're really here to do: explore, create, and just be. And then the ancient and shining ones, which there are legends all over the globe of a time when there were these beings that we might take as angels, we might take them as gods, quote unquote. We could take them as many different things: extraterrestrials, interdimensionals. There were these amazing beings of high vibrational frequency that walked amongst us. They were here with us. They taught us and guided us. And we could view them as the true Elohim, They're not the Anunnaki, and they're not the Gigi, they're not the Draco, they're not the Greys, tall and short. They're none of those beings. They're not a certain branch of Nordic extraterrestrial that's come under the power of the draconian system. No, these are the true beings of light that guided us.
Mm-hmm. They are. They're the true beings that came down here to spend some time with us and teach us what they know, before everything kind of got darker and was hijacked.
Yes, and it was hijacked, and it gets hijacked time and time again. And that's part of the secret that they cover up. Why do we see evidence of great civilizations here on Earth built differently, built with stones and not with metal? But yet it seems like they had amazing technology that might be beyond ours. Well, it's because they lived in harmony with the earth. They understood that every single individual is a cell in the body of the earth. Mm-hmm. So we must live in harmony with the earth. We don't want to be a cancer or a virus upon this planet. We want to live in harmony with it. Then the weather is not like what we see now, even though so much of the weather now is just totally manufactured. Sure, there's natural cycles. Yes, there are grand solar minimums. Yes, we're going through a magnetic pole excursion or reversal. There's lots going on right now, for sure. And at some point in time, we have gotten that there will be a big blast from the sun that's going to change everything in an instant, in the twinkling of an eye. Yet, when we look at much of what's going on right now, it's completely technologically driven. And it's all about fear, getting us to fear, quote unquote, God, to say, God must be mad at us for all these things to be happening. But it's not Source. It's not Source at all. Source doesn't do that to us. Yes, there is a law of cause and effect. There's a law of karma, but not what we see here. Not disobedience to the dark energies, the dark entities that use technology to bring fear to us. And if we get too smart, if we start to work together instead of working to fight against each other all the time, we got that the Tower of Babel was basically a breakaway civilization that was way ahead of many of the others on this planet at this time. And so the Anunnaki, Gigi, Draco faction, the Orion group is what's referred to by the Law of One. They basically caused havoc upon the Earth using their technologies. Now, whether it was something that was shot from a ship or whether it was simply nudging some asteroids on a particular course, that's up for debate. But, the bottom line is it wasn't Source. It was them that did this.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's just something that we haven't been taught. And it's time to learn. It's time to wake up. And if you're listening to this show, something has happened in your life where you're finally questioning things. You're finally needing to know the truth. You have a new understanding of, hey, something's really, really, really wrong with this picture. Unfortunately, a lot of times when people wake up, it has something to do with a very tragic event, losing a loved one sometimes, and then you just start to question everything. And that's what we're trying to bring you guys. We're trying to bring you the true sense of everything. Because how can you live your best life and be your best person if you don't know how everything came to be in a truthful way all around you?
So we are going to share basically part of the message that we got from the Galactic Federation and Laurel. I just wanted to preface everything that we're talking about now as we're going to share this message with you guys, and hopefully you can hear it well. Here we go. If it'll let me.
Well, so
okay, there we go.
Over a time when humanity and the Galactic Federation, the Palladians in particular, walks on the same earth and the same destiny.
So in case you couldn't hear that, because again, this is when we're channeling literally. Whenever they decide to come through, which may be often it's 12 p.m., 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 7 a.m., could be any time. So my question was there ever a time when the Galactic Federation was actually here physically on Earth where we could physically see them and they walked the Earth with us?
There are cycles throughout time where we were together. When there's harmony and balance, that's where you'll find us. When there was harmony and balance on your planet, we were here with you.
I felt that the Golden Age comes at a regular timing of the precession of the equinox, which, if my memory is right, it's roughly 25,920 years. Is that correct, that the Golden Age comes by within that cycle each time?
So my question there is, I've felt instinctively, and really it's coming from them, I don't have the ability to channel like Cindy does. Very few do. We've gotten that maybe 6 on the entire planet can channel like she does. But basically that the Golden Age comes within the precession of the equinox was my question. Is this true? And again, this is Laurel from the Galactic Federation and the Pleiadian High Council.
That is a good approximation of a timeline, though each cycle varies slightly depending on the species and their controllers upon the planet.
Are these same controllers? How many cycles have they been through?
So the next question is, how many cycles have we been through with these controllers?
Cycles go back further than our written history, cycles upon cycles in our history. They are in this instance, there are innumerable cycles. That is the way of the planet. Everything can
So this is where it's very taxing to channel this way, so I have to constantly be running energy through to mitigate the effects of the channeling. But basically, she said, too many cycles to count. They are innumerable. They go back beyond the Galactic Federation's written records.
Are we technically out of the Dark Age, of the Kali Yuga, or are we still in it? As Sri Yugaswara had seen the teacher of Yogananda, we thought that we were out of the Dark Age.
You are.
So the question here is, are we out of the Dark Age? As Sri Yugaswara, who is the teacher of Yogananda, thought that we were out of the Dark Age already. He had it start. He had the Dwapara Yuga starting about a couple hundred years ago, and she gives her answer.
Coming out here on the cusp of change. This is a very difficult time. This is where humans are becoming more aware of who they are, where they're from. They're very sensitive. Sensitivities are rising. Humans are seeing the cruel nature of their controllers. They're also feeling more of how they're controlled. It is a very difficult time.
So yes, we are starting to wake up, and we are starting to understand that we're being controlled. This is why, she has shared, and I know that there's so many people that are so locked up, as we said, more than 60% of the world is coming out of the Abrahamic mindset, which has been given to us really by these controllers. There are nuggets, there are, beautiful truths in there, but if you're following that mainstream fundamentalist point of view, you're following their system, you're following their beliefs that they've given us. Because they're not telling you that, again, source is within all of us. We all are source. Every one of us is a unique aspect of source. That takes away the power. They've used the church. They use all the different, now, this has been done cycle after cycle. So they've created other religions under different names, but doing the same thing again countless times. It's taking power away from the individual, giving it to them, giving it to the power brokers. Think about it, especially in the Middle Ages, for us, that say have grown up in Christianity. You feared getting basically the wrath of the church on you more than anything. The kings had to go to the church to say, I'm thinking about starting a war with my neighbor. What do you think? Will you be behind me? They had to get approval. And, even in this age, there are still leaders that are going to consult with the Vatican, not because the Pope is the representative of Yeshua on earth. That's not at all. No, they're part of the secret society hierarchy, not the true hierarchy, but part of the human hierarchy that reports to the non-human hierarchy.
Yeah, and we were just talking with a family member yesterday who, she wants to be around good people, and so she goes to a church where there's good people. Unfortunately, they're all about getting that certain treatment that we all can't really talk about on the channel. So there again, another source where the controllers are taking this information and saying, okay, now you disseminate it. Again, more control. And, it kind of makes you feel like the odd man out, and it might even pressure some people into going and doing it. But you just see over and over again who's calling the shots.
Yeah, and as even a kid, I was debating Jehovah's Witnesses that were coming knocking on the door, and how many of them realize, for instance, that Charles Taze Russell, the founder, the Russell family is one of the 13 prime Illuminati families, and the founder of the Mormon Church they're both 33rd degree Mason secret society people. They're part of the control structure. Darwinian evolution is given to us again by a 33rd degree Mason. We go on down the line, and we could see even, some not so notable presidents like Ford is a 33rd degree Mason. We got both Bushes, their skull and bones. We go on and on. They control the narrative. They know who they're working for. They know when they're not working for the creator of the universe. No, they're working for the extraterrestrial interdimensional overlords that are raping and pillaging the planet and using humanity as just another herd, another flock. They don't love us. Why do you think they're so eager to get sworn into office and put their hand on the Bible? Because it doesn't set them on flesh, because it's their word, their version. Doesn't mean that there aren't scriptures in there that are not giving you light and love and wonderful nuggets of spirituality. There are, but not their version. Their version's all about control, fear, linear-based thinking. What's the ultimate, scenario that comes through? Read again Revelation 22. And read all of Revelation, because they've done this so many times. This is part of their script. Again, Why do they call it scripture? Because it's part of the script. You know, we have to drive this home so people can get this out of their minds and stop being sheeple. And yeah, if people unsubscribe, fine. You know, you're not ready at this point in time to realize that we're not alone. Not alone at all. We've never been alone. But again, the truly benevolent ones, they're not working against each other. That's basically what the dark side does, is try to get us to think that only we have the truth. Don't worry, you're the saved ones. You're going to be fine. You're going to escape all the punishment, you know, because you believe the right dogma. You've dipped your head the right way into a certain body of water, or had it poured over you with just the right words. You've said the right words, and you've gone back to being the same person. Has that changed anything? No, it doesn't change anything. This is all part of the biggest deception that is going on. Just like believing that when you go and pull a lever, the exact right counting is happening, you know, or press a button. And I think people are waking up to that fact too, as I think about a state over on the West Coast, CAL, you know what, and a country right above us, right above USA, us. Do we really think that this is really what's going on here? You know, as far as, you know, what you see is what you get, not at all. The deception is great. It's huge. And this is all about maintaining their control, which they know because they've lost us in the past and they're going to lose us again. That's the bottom line. When we look to the Dogon tribe over in Africa, you know, they say, well, our ancestors came here from way over there. And they understand that there's beings, benevolent beings, that come from different star systems that come and are with us at certain time periods. They know this. They've handed down this tradition, you know, from father, son, mother, daughter, countless times. And we could look over to also the Hopi, and they'll say the same thing. And there's certain star systems that come up all the time. The Pleiades, good guys, you know, it's serious. And then, you know, we have the Orion. You know, that's one you got to be a little bit careful of. The Orions, you know, some of them. Again, not. It's just like on this planet itself. You know, there are some humans that are exceedingly benevolent. There are some that are not so benevolent. Would you want to go on a camping trip with Charles Manson and Jeffrey Dahmer and sleep comfortably in the middle of the night, making sure that you're not going to be the barbecue tomorrow?
Right.
You know, now if you went on that camping trip with, you know, Yeshua and Buddha, it would be enlightening. It'd be wonderful. And that's just to give you an extreme. Now, they're both, you know, from the same species, quote unquote, at least in the physical sense, yet very, very different. And it's the same thing with the other species out there. From the Hindu holy books, we get that there's 432,000 humanoid species in our area that they knew of. That's huge. How did they know this? But then again, they had descriptions of aerial battle and tremendous weaponry going on. And the Kali Yuga ends when Krishna leaves. You know, Krishna was like the last of the more divine beings as far as to walk amongst us, teach us, and guide us. And again, when we say divine, we just mean somebody that has a better connection, a stronger connection to the source. Because, you know, divinity, the potential for divinity is in every single one of us. And again, look to Revelation. When will the end come? When man says, you know, that God is in me, I am God. Why can't they have that? Because look, you know, they ate of the knowledge of the tree of good and evil, which is not good. We need them being brainwashed. We need them being asleep. We don't want them realizing that we're treating them like cattle and that we're getting them to rape and pillage their own planet for us. And the fact that, you know, who are they serving? Well, galactic pirates of a sort, as we've said before. That's all these negative beings are that could do such things as nudge asteroids, you know, out of the way and send them down to us. And, if we go back again, Enlil says humanity's too much of a pain in the butt. They're too noisy. I can't sleep. They're just, they're occupying me too much of my time. Just get rid of them all. Let's just get rid of them all. Now, whether they knew there was an asteroid coming in that created the Younger Dryas event, or whether they nudged it, or maybe it was pure technology. Who's to say that, that wouldn't be one of the methods that they could use to utilize weaponry? Gather up asteroids, just shoot the asteroids out in a certain direction. It's going to look really, really natural, quote unquote, just like those strange chemicals that are wafting down right now from those interesting looking cloud formations.
Well, if you think about it, you think about ants. Let's take ants for an example. And let's say you have, red ants and black ants all kind of in a same colony, and somebody picks up that colony and they shake it. And pretty soon the red ants and the black ants, they start after each other because they think each thinks the other one was the one that caused the disruption. We are very much like that. Like there's a being, an entity causing disruption in our lives. And a lot of times people turn on other people to blame other people for the disruption when really it's this external entity.
We've talked about 1871 and the plan for 3 world wars. Many people that are fundamentalist point of view will view that God brought Israel back together because it's the last days. But in reality, that wheel was set in motion by ROTHS child, one of the main families of the controllers. And the Balfour Declaration, was it God, really? The creator of the multiverse? No, it's never been the creator of everything. It's not source. Again, this is part of the Anunnaki, Ijiji, Draco, Illuminati, Skull and Bones. We could go on down through the different humans that are involved in this and the non-humans, because yes, again, there's other species that work with these as well. It's not source doing this, so if people want to go ahead and keep worshiping the ones that are the conquerors and bringing all this death and destruction on the planet, then you're just feeding the power to them. Because this is not Yeshua's mission. They took Yeshua's mission and rewrote it. They turned it into a blood sacrifice instead of a message of ascension and human potential. No. It's all about atoning, becoming one at one mint, but yet at one mint with what? Because, why would a benevolent being demand a blood sacrifice? Well, that's a mystery of God. Yeah, it's a mystery of the controllers. It's meant to be a quote-unquote mystery because there's no real good explanation that's going to come from the heart for it. So it's just got to be one of those mysteries that you have faith in, you trust in. Interesting that those that were ascribing to a gnosis, Gnostic point of view in Christianity were totally persecuted, literally even killed at times because they became heretics. Yet they weren't heretics in the early church, they were just a different branch. And, Christ never really set about, Yeshua never set about to create a quote-unquote church or a structure at all. Because, again, your temple is your physical body, and source is residing in that temple. Cultivate it. When we look to so many in Christianity, and Christianity and Islam have been put on a collision course purposefully. Islam means to submit to the will of who? Well, they'll say the will of God, who is known as Allah. Anything you name is not source. So, and this again, we'll get some people to thumbs down. That's fine, because we're not here for a popularity contest. We're here to just bring understanding to the fact that you're being played. You're totally being, used, abused, and controlled. And it's only when enough people wake up and recognize that they might still be in the system, even though they think they're out of a system. Even if you're self-sufficient, even if you're, living on your own paid-for piece of land, and you're able to grow all your food, as we know, the government could still come take it away from you. But if your mindset is such that you have the only truth, in the sense that You know, perhaps you're of a fundamentalist Christian point of view, maybe you're Islamic, whatever it is. If you believe that other people are wrong and there's only one dogmatic approach to things, you're still in their box. You're still in their system. That's one of their tools.
Mm-hmm. And we are here to help you find your way out of that. And a lot of people, I hear them say, you know, they're just so afraid to completely let go. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. This is your life. You're responsible for this journey. And understand that, you know, a system that's highly narcissistic in a very covert manner has taken over your journey. And don't be afraid to step out of the box. Don't be afraid to look into other systems. If you're starting to get curious about the occult, which just means hidden, explore it. It's okay. It's in your DNA. You've had many, many lifetimes. The reason you're curious about these things is because you have already lived it. It's your DNA waking up. Explore that. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, you know, we have these memories, and we also have memories hidden in our DNA of you know, horrible attacks from beings from above that we just couldn't understand. And then there's also memories of knowing that they're not all bad that come from above, you know, those that from the heavens come. And it just depends on where we are again in this big cycle, the Kali Yuga, or are we in the Dwapara, the Treta, the Satya? And thankfully, we're going to be leaving this Kali Yuga. There will not be any dogmas. There's no dogma in the Golden Age. You know, again, this is all completely a construct that's given to us by these powers. Anything that divides us, anything that sets us off to conquer. Think about the Crusades. You know, fight for Christianity. Go reconquer the Holy Land. The Holy Land is inside you. Realize that. Just think about it in those terms. The Holy Land is your temple that your spirit is residing in, which is the spirit of Source itself. That changes everything. It takes power away from the structure. And Islam means submit, to submit. Well, we should submit to the will of Source, but that will is different for each and every one of us. Not one size fits all. Mm-hmm. We're all different, unique individuals. That's the whole purpose of Source.
Yep.
You know, if Source wanted there to be one way, we wouldn't have this multitude of different beings out there. More beings than we could ever count. It's because Source is exploring itself from as many points of view as possible. That's the whole purpose of everything. So again, very easy to tell what is coming from the controllers, because if it's a doctrine of you know, divide and conquer, a doctrine that's telling you it's better for an infidel to die, you know, if they won't convert, off with their heads. You know, that's not from Source. That again, that's given to us by these dark controllers. And many people have dreams. We were talking to somebody today that had, you know, dreams of guillotines and beheading. This is, you know, again, part of the conditioning, because, you know, in Christianity, there's an inherent fear that may be in the DNA of many people from the wars that have gone on previously between Islam and Christianity. But again, this is the controllers. Look to the Bible and look to what happens when the Israelites finally leave wandering in the desert and get to Canaan. They start off basically slaughtering. It's genocide. One place after another. They put all to the sword, for the most part. You know, yeah, you know, some they were able to assimilate in or get along with. But, you know, when you look to Jericho and you see, you know, put every man, woman, and child to the sword, but save the gold and the silver and all that and put it into the, you know, treasure store, the treasure house of the Lord. That's not the source of the multiverse. I mean, it doesn't take too much discernment to figure that out. And that's why so many people will even say, you know, the God of the Old Testament's not my God. You know, I follow the God of the New Testament, the God of, you know, Jesus. which that's the beginning of understanding there, because yeah, the Old Testament, it was pretty easy to see, you know, that things are not so roses and honey and, you know, all the good things.
Right. Right.
But yeah, at the same time, the main core teachings twisted so that it's not about blood sacrifice. You know, it's about understanding who you are and drawing into you and your life the true light of source, which is going to lead to Christ consciousness. And it's all about that heart-centered living, and that's the key to ascension. So he was here, Yeshua was here to pave the way for where we are now, to show us, you know, how do we ascend? How do we get out of this 3D, 4D loop?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And, you know, it's really important that we follow our hearts. And, you know, if you're having trouble and, well, you know, I guess I started waking up by asking myself, you know, how come in every town there's like 100 different churches, depending on the size of the town, and each church thinks that their way is the only way, the only true way. How could this be? How could everybody have this belief system? This makes no sense. So that's kind of where I started. So just don't be afraid. Just start contemplating so you can be free.
So again, you know, well, people just want to get into heaven, right? People just want to be reunited with their loved ones. They want to have a nice, beautiful existence after this. But that's the good news. It doesn't take any dogma to do that. It just takes heart-centered living. It just takes raising up your own vibration. It takes sharing love and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so look at those teachings, like when Yeshua, you know, was talking about somebody coming and, you know, asking for your cloak, give them your tunic too. Go the extra mile. And, you know, again, we could look to the rich power structures of this earth and the rich man's son that said, I believe in you. I've followed your teachings. What else can I do? Well, if you really want to go all the way, sell everything, give the proceeds to the poor, and just follow me with what's on your back. And he couldn't do it, you know? So again, could they do it? Could Gil Bates do that? Could Trudeau do that? Could Macron do that? Do you see the Pope doing that? With all his pomp and circumstance? Do you see even some people that we would view as benevolent teachers of a certain ilk, like your Billy Graham or your Charles Stanley or, you know, David Jeremiah or, you know, any of these? We had one in my town growing up that was, my God, he packed him in. He was like a rock star every Sunday, 4 or 5 hour services. You know, we went to one and that was it. But, you know, he had 7 BMWs parked in his driveway and he had a mansion that's worth multi-millions. I don't believe he's really following the teachings. Not that we have to be impoverished, just saying that if you really want to go all the way, then you're going to put first and foremost helping others and service to self is put in the background in a sense, because again, what's the best thing you could do is get yourself spiritually righted. You know, you have to get yourself healthy and strong and also in a good practice before you could be of use to others. Before you could be shining your light, you have to shine your own light within. So again, and this is something we talked about with somebody earlier this morning, you got to really work on your spiritual practice. That is the main thing. And what does that look like? Everybody's different. If you want to go and say prayers for an hour in the morning, do that. If it's meditation, if it's yoga, if it's Qigong, any of these type of disciplines, if it's just getting out into nature and planting things, working in your garden, if it's taking hikes, and maybe it's taking kayak camping trips, you know, and just being out there with Mother Earth and all the devas, beautiful. We have to reconnect to source in whatever way it looks like with you.
Everybody's a little bit different. Just remember that.
And there's no right and wrong ways. That's the bottom line. Every one of us is unique, and it's supposed to be that way. So we don't have to conform. So they could take their MAS, KSs, and, you know, do whatever they want with them, because this is not about conformity. This is about individuality and free expression. As always, guys, Thanks for your support on Ko-Fi and Patreon. Check out Medicinal Foods. God bless. Namaste.
Namaste.